Family drama. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my siblings I want nothing to do with our mother's funeral and won't help pay for it? I, 24 female, am the youngest of 5. My siblings are John, 33 male, Lucy, 32 female, Nathan, 30 male, and Erica, 28 female. Their, and possibly my, father left when our mother was pregnant with me. I say possibly mine because I do not know if he is my father or if another man is. Nobody does really. But anyway, our mother was an alcoholic and neglectful to us. My siblings all cut and run as soon as they could and left me alone with her. They never visited, refused to help me, and rarely called our mother. I was left to face her verbal abuse. I was there to pick up after her. She was not a good mother, and once I moved out, I cut her off completely. My siblings were upset I abandoned our mother, and our relationship has been tense since. I hate that they expected me to look after the woman who pushed me out, because that's all she did. Our mother became ill sometime last year, and in July, they were told she would not make it. I did not see her. They tried to talk me around, but like I told them, I made my peace years ago and I owed her absolutely nothing. She died very recently and now they want me to attend a funeral and help pay for it. I said no. They tried to guilt me into it. I told them I want nothing to do with the funeral and I was not going to spend a thing on the woman who treated me like crap. More guilt trips happened and then I pointed out I did it alone for 4 years. I had to clean up her puke, bathe her, make sure she didn't hurt herself. I had to clean puke off myself more times than I care to remember. I had to fend for myself all alone. I did my time. I was done. They are pissed, upset, hurting, etc. And I get it. But I don't think I owe them either. They didn't help me when I needed it, so why would I help them now? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments of this post. My siblings were upset I abandoned our mother. Not the a-hole. You didn't abandon her. You moved out as soon as you could, which is exactly what your siblings did. You spent a significant amount of time looking after her on your own. I'd say you've done more than your fair share. OP's siblings abandoned her. And this twisted narrative that she left her mom is probably just so they don't have to face that they left their small sister alone with their alcohol-sick parent. Shame on them. OP is the scapegoat, and the others are upset that she's rocking the boat. Her siblings were raised by a very toxic person, so it's no surprise that they are dysfunctional as well. Definitely not the a-hole, and she is justified in cutting her siblings off if they continue their behavior. Not the a-hole. I think it's hypocritical of them to say you abandoned her when they left as soon as they could and didn't look back. I would have said no a-holes here because they are also dealing with a neglectful childhood and all the trauma associated, but they have absolutely no right to hound you to be a part of anything you don't want to be. I think you're really strong for standing your ground here. All the best, OP. This is how I feel. Like, I get they might have forgiven her, and that's great for them. Maybe they care more now. But that doesn't mean I need to. I was left alone with her the longest. I took care of her the most. I do not owe any of them more than I already did. Have they given you any reason for why they expected you to stay and take care of her when not one of them were willing to do it? Well, the younger of my 2 sisters said that time we fought about it, back when I moved out, that I was born into it so it was easier for me. But in general, no. Not the a-hole. You don't owe any of them anything. You've more than done your time and you deserve better. Enjoy your life and be happy on your own terms. Yes, I would have not stayed as long as I did, but I had nowhere to go, and I knew it would be hard as F to find some place for me that wouldn't get CPS involved. Now for the second story. My mother recently passed away and my wife won't stop making jokes and acting excited about it. It's really hurting our marriage. What do I do? My mother passed away last week from lung cancer. We did not have the best relationship for a good while, but it still hurt. My wife and her did not get along very well at all. They really just hated each other. They would take jabs at each other each chance they got. I was on my wife's side, as the fights were usually caused by mother. Because of her not accepting and always being a jerk to my wife, I stopped speaking with my mother. When I first heard that she had cancer, I did my best to try to fix our relationship. My wife even tried to help as well. We would bring her stuff and do things to try and help out. She would still say mean things to my wife. We stopped going to see her and helping her because of this. We got the news recently that she was on her deathbed. I went to say my goodbyes while my wife stayed at home. I was really sad when she passed away. To my surprise, only days later my wife started to make jokes about her and her dying. She'd say stuff like, "I hope hell is treating her nice," and just awful comments like that. She was really celebrating her death. She said it feels like Hitler died. Now, while I understood that she may be happy deep down that she died, I thought it was awful for her to continue to make these comments about her. She knew that even though I didn't have the greatest relationship with her in the end, that I still love her because she was my mother. After she made another comment, I asked her kindly to stop. I told her that these comments are hurtful towards me. She asked me if I was serious. I told her that I was. She laughed and didn't say anything else. I thought she was done. Nope. A few days later, I heard her make another comment about her. I broke at this point and yelled and cussed at her and told her to shut the F up. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said, "You cannot be serious right now. Why don't you go ahead and visit your mother in hell?" She started yelling at me more and explained how I should be happy too. And that since I'm not, it must mean I'm on my dead mother's side. I walked away in silence. I didn't know what to say. Now I will admit that my mother did treat my wife awful. I will never really forgive her for doing that, nor will I ever view her the same way. But I think it is unacceptable for my wife to talk about her this way after she's dead. It gave me no time to grieve at all. I don't know what to do at this point. Should I try to sit down and talk to her? Do I need to apologize about anything? I don't want to let this ruin our marriage, but at this point, I don't know what to do. Now let's read the top comments. Counseling. Now. Either you should have paid more attention to the reasons your mom never liked your wife, or your mom's behavior did even more damage than you realize and your wife needs to find a better way of working through that. Regardless, if she's dug in on insisting that you be happy, instead of recognizing that things are complicated and prepared to treat you like the enemy if you're not in full agreement with her, that's not sustainable, and you need a neutral party to mediate. And if your wife won't go, then find a grief counselor so you can work through your mom's death with someone who will be sympathetic while you sort out where to go from here. Agreed, though my vote will be couples counseling, plus grief counseling for the OP. Individual counseling/therapy is for people who think they need/want it, and the wife doesn't think she needs/wants it. But they're talking across each other and she's not hearing the OP, so couples counseling is in order. Grief counseling could also help the OP to process his complex feelings around his mother. You could tell her that you understand your mother was awful to her, but the comments need to stop, as she has passed now, and there is no need for them at this point, and it hurts you because she was your mother. Or that if she really needs to express these feelings somewhere, she should find a better outlet for it. If she needs to keep a private journal to write out her feelings as they evolve, or even go to a friend's house to get snarky over cocktails or something. As long as she knows her grief over how she was treated has no reason to overlap her husband's grief for his mother. They are both entitled to their feelings, but there's a time and place and an audience that must be kept in mind. Opie's wife is considering none of this, and is still seemingly incredulous when he doesn't immediately push aside his grief to comfort her or validate her hurt feelings. She may feel damaged by this, or alone, but if her only way to seek support is to belittle his feelings and expect him to partake in really hurtful and ill-timed humor about a damaged relationship in his life that's now over, she has a lot of work to do on herself. She seems to feel entitled to her husband's energy to the point where she feels she can out a timeline on his mourning. Stop being kind about it. Flat out say stop it, even if the middle of her is saying it, and tell her it's unacceptable, and then change subjects or just leave the room she is in. I think it's past being kind about it. He told her to shut the F up. Deservedly so, in my opinion. The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that it's her fault she was cut out of her grandmother's will and to stop complaining about it?" My daughter and my mother-in-law have never gotten along. I am completely on my daughter's side, for I do not think mother-in-law was a good person. Everyone else in the family chose to play along in hopes of getting some money, but my daughter was always the black sheep of the family. She is into political activism and she stood up to her grandmother. Mother-in-law made it very clear that she did not like me, or my daughter, and various cousins couldn't wait to feed mother-in-law information on my daughter. When my daughter got married, mother-in-law is literally scowling in all of the pictures, because my daughter did not wear white. To me, it was abundantly clear that she was not going to get anything in the will, but I was proud of her for making her own decisions. Mother-in-law died 6 months ago. It was fairly unexpected, but she was 80, so she had plenty of time to consider her will. And if anyone needs context on how bad the relationship was, she did not want to see either of us when she was in the hospital. As I expected, she only left money to the family members who obeyed her, but my daughter was devastated. She has been complaining for the past 6 months about how her cousins' lives have changed. They will never have to worry about anything. They are buying the fancy houses, planning huge trips, and I am tired of listening to it. I snapped at her last night that it is her fault. I later elaborated that I meant they were her choices, and that she knew what she was risking. For the record, she is not a teenager. She is married with 2 kids, but she got very upset and said I was siding with her grandmother. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She needs to build a bridge and get over it. At the end of the day, when someone writes a will, it's entirely up to them who they leave money to. If she didn't get on with her gran, why would she want her money anyway? Because it's money? I would take anyone's money. Not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law could bequeath her estate to whom she pleased, and your daughter willingly chose not to play grandma's game. I am expecting to be in a similar position as my son and my mother are inseparable, but my daughter is mouthy, difficult, stubborn, such that grandma doesn't want to be around her much, even as a young child. I will tell my daughter the same thing if needed. Not the a-hole. Actions have consequences, even when those actions aren't necessarily wrong at the time. No a-holes here, except Granny. Her grandmother was toxic, and her cousins enjoyed participating in the toxicity and eventually profited from that. How freaking gross. You aren't siding with her nasty grandmother so much as acknowledging that neither of you participated in the toxicity, which means you got no windfall from her death. Your daughter can regret that, but hopefully she also owns that she lived her most authentic life without someone wanting to dictate the color of her wedding dress or other pretty parts of her life. Now for the last story, am I the a-hole for not wanting to name my daughter after my husband's late wife? The situation is horrible. I'm literally losing sleep over this. My 32 female, husband 36 male, lost his late wife to cancer. They were married for just 3 years, and he still has contact and a very good relationship with her family, which is a good thing. I met him in about a year after his wife's death. We dated casually for a few months till he told me about his feelings and wanting to be in a serious relationship with me. We've married for 6 months now. I'm 18 weeks pregnant with a baby girl. My husband decided to name our daughter after his late wife, right after we got back from ultrasound appointment with the doctor. We started discussing this. It was not okay for him to decide without even talking to me. I wanted us to start looking for trendy names, but he declined and insisted on going with his late wife's name. I was so mad, I couldn't even call mom to give her the happy news. I tried approaching him again, but he told me that I was just hating the name because of what it meant to him. He then literally started calling her with that name, and to make matters worse, he contacted her family and told them he was going to name our daughter after her. When he told me that, I was so upset I yelled at him for not even considering that I too get a say in this. But he doubled down, saying there wouldn't have been possible without him, so he has a right to name our baby after his late wife and wouldn't accept any other name. I'm stressing out, and I feel awful. Not to mention he actually thinks that my feelings don't matter one bit, and his late wife's family are clearly more important. Silent treatment is his way of getting me to apologize, but I'm so hurt by this treatment, and I just can't have him go with that name. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The red flags are him naming the baby without even considering your input, refusing to acknowledge that you, as the mom, have a say in the name, and trying to socially manipulate you by telling his late wife's family. You need to get some space from this man and reevaluate your choices. Therapy at least for both of you, if you choose to try and save this relationship. Thank you for this. I hate bringing to dump him because he's clearly in need of some therapeutic work, but I'm also thinking OP should be wary of letting him sign a birth certificate. How can he not realize how he's traumatizing his daughter? Hi, named you after my first wife. And how he's not being a massive a-hole, establishing the name. So many red flags, OP. So many. This, really hope you take a beat to evaluate your relationship because this is more than just a name, which itself is controversial. You are her mother, and you get an equal say in her name. This is a very worrying sign. Does he bulldoze you in other parts of the relationship? And for what it's worth, when he tries to pull the "I helped create her" card, here's some receipts for you. 1. You put in just as much work in the conception as he did. 2. You are carrying her for 9 months. 3. You're birthing her. So you're actually doing far, far more work than the couple of pumps it took from him. Yes, you're right. I wish he could understand how much he's hurting me right now. And the fact that he told his late wife's family that he is going to name our daughter after her is so upsetting. He should have told me. I never expected he'll pull this, especially after the doctor's appointment. Not the a-hole. Given his manipulative behavior, I would let the labor team know that he is not allowed to sign any naming documents when the baby is born. He could try to go behind your back and name her while you are exhausted from birth. Yes, ultimately the one giving birth is the one who the hospitals defer to on the birth certificate. If OP wants to stay with her husband and try to make this work, reminding him of the fact could potentially shake some sense into him and at least open the door to having a real conversation. Maybe. Husband, I want to involve you in the name and make this a joint decision. But if you keep doubling down on name and refuse to engage with me on choosing the name, I'll be forced to move forward with choosing a name alone. I would really prefer to not have to do that. And those are the stories for this video, guys. As always, leave a comment below and don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more content. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.